Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. I'm really happy to have you here with me today. So today's video I filmed a couple of days ago and I had a little bit of a technical difficulty with my microphone. The technical difficulty was actually that I forgot to turn my microphone on for the beginning part of the video. So I did realize it and was able to continue on and share with you all of the food that we made out of that big harvest that we did in the garden last week. However, I didn't do an intro, so I didn't want to just jump right into the video without doing an intro. So here I am. I hope that you enjoy the video, everyone. Friends, a little technical difficulty. I just filmed a whole bunch of all of this prep and getting all of these veggies ready to be canned and processed in all the ways I'm going to process them. And then I just had this dreadful feeling that I had forgotten to turn my microphone on, and sure enough, when I looked down, it was not on. So I'm going to run you through everything that I've done up until this point, and I guess we'll just go from there and just make the best of it. So this morning when we came inside, it was around 8:15 or so. After I got everything pulled out of the garden, I ended up with a ton of pickling cucumbers, like tons and tons of them. This big bowl that I'm going to be turning into dill pickles. I have a big bowl here that has cauliflower and bread and butter sized pickles. I also have another one over there that's ripple cut. One of my sons wanted to ripple cut some. I was just going to use the food processor like I did last time for the bread and butter pickles, but he wanted ripple cut ones. So he cut up that bowl over there of rippled cut ones. We have all those cucumbers there that are too big to turn into pickles. I mean, I probably could turn them into pickles, but we do have enough pickles on the shelves now with the batch that I'm going to be doing here, or the two batches probably, with these ones. So I think what I'm probably going to do is cut those ones in half and remove the seeds just because they're so large, and dice them up or grate them up and freeze dry them, and then I can use them for tzatziki or something else that requires little pieces of cucumber at a later date. The nice thing about freeze drying is it lasts forever. So that's probably what I'll do with that. I have the giant zucchinis down over there in the wheelbarrow still that I have not made a decision about what we're gonna do with yet. Over on the stove, I have some of the brine that I made the other day. So what I often do during pickle season when I'm having tons of cucumbers coming out of the garden, this year has been exceptional as far as the amount of pickling cucumbers I've gotten. But I make a large batch and then I just keep gallon jars of it in the fridge, and then I can just reheat it up rather than having to make fresh batches of brine. So I'm going to be using that for the dill pickles and also for the dilly beans that I made here and filmed but didn't have any sound for. So I just cut the ends off of my beans. I've put them in here with some garlic, a little bit of red pepper flakes to add a little kick to it, and then a bunch of the gorgeous dill flowers that we picked from the garden earlier. So those are all packed and waiting for the brine to heat up. Also have a whole bunch of cabbage here that has been finely chopped up. We're going to be using a large amount of this for the soup that we're going to make, and the rest of it we'll probably pack into a jar and make some sauerkraut. And then down here we have some grated carrot and some grated beet. So this is not, or uncooked beet rather. And then over in the sink over there, I do have some beet that I cooked for around 30 minutes until it was fork tender. Cooled it off, and then we're going to peel it, and we're also going to pickle that. I was going to make Harvard beets, which is pickled beets in kind of a syrupy type sauce, but I've decided that I'm just going to straight up pickle them today just because I have a lot that I need to get done in the kitchen. One of the things that I did talk about that I'm going to repeat myself just because I think it bears repeating when my microphone was not turned on is that something to keep in mind when you watch my videos, and I'm sure it's obvious, but I feel like it bears mentioning, is that usually my videos are around 30 minutes long or so, and I pack a lot into them. But oftentimes the things that I'm sharing in those videos are over an entire day. Sometimes they're over 2 days. And I do try to always mention that in the video if it's the next day or several hours later, just so that you can get a realistic idea of the amount of time it takes me to do something. I do tend to pack a lot in a day, especially during canning season. It's just a really busy time of year here on our farm. But today's a really good example where we got out early in the morning. You and I, we were out in the garden at around 6:45 in the morning. We stayed out in the garden for around an hour, did all of that picking, came into the house. We actually had a big breakfast. We had pancakes and eggs and bacon and hung out, and then Dan took the kids to a camp that they were going to today. I just puttered around the house. When Dan came back, we sat down and had a visit for probably around an hour. And then what I do? I don't even know what I did. I think I just put my feet up and relaxed. I had a nap, just kind of chilled out. And now it is 3:30 and I started this project around 2:45 today. So it's going to look to you like I did all of this in a very short period of time, but it's actually over an entire day. So I just wanted to mention that because on my last video, we did do a lot that day. It was a really crazy day because we did a huge harvest and then a ton of processing all in the same day, and it was kind of back to back. But that's not really usual. Normally, it's broken up with lots of other things that I do throughout the day that I'm not filming, of course. On that note, our brine is ready over here. I'm going to turn the steam canner off too, since I'm not quite ready for it yet. And we are going to top off our dilly beans here with this brine. And this brine is a mix of white and apple cider vinegar. There's a little bit of sugar, not very much in it, and a little bit of salt and water as well. Just kind of a basic pickle brine. Whew, it's very, very vinegary smelling. You definitely don't want to just be inhaling that. Okay, so we're going to debubble these and then top them off with a little more liquid. So looking forward to having some borscht, made borscht in probably, I don't know, 6 months or so. It's been a while. I love making a summer borscht because I can make it almost entirely with ingredients from my garden, and it just tastes so incredible. So we're just going to top these off, 3/4 of an inch of headspace or so, give or take. And we are going to, oh darn it, oh shoot. I put my clean lids right there, and then I went and grated a whole bunch of vegetables right over top of them. So now they are no longer clean. So we'll grab some clean lids from over here. I got some new canning jars because I ran out of pint jars this year. And I love it when I get new canning jars because they always come with new rings. And I love the feeling of putting brand new rings. Most of my rings are really old. So putting on new rings feels like quite a luxury. So we'll just tighten these up finger tight and pop them in our canner, and we're going to steam can these for 10 minutes. Let's go down to my storage room and grab a giant pot to make our soup. We'll be right back. This recipe, if you have my cookbook, is in my cookbook, and I'm super excited because as of yesterday, I just got the first sample of my cookbook back from the designer, which is so exciting. It's so fun seeing a project that you've worked on for a long time starting to come together. So we're hoping to do pre-sales by the end of September for shipping out in time for Christmas, and I'm really excited about it. So this is a second edition of my cookbook. There is 21, I think we have 21 new recipes, new tips, and all that kind of fun stuff in it. And yeah, it's been a really enjoyable project. The first time I did it, it was the first time I'd ever done anything like this, any type of project like this, so I learned a lot. So I've taken all of that learning and put it into this second edition of the cookbook. So cannot wait to share that with you. We have these 2 onions. We're going to chop these up finely. This recipe is one that you can really play around with quite a bit. Sometimes I add beef to it. This is a vegetarian version that I'm making today, but sometimes I'll add beef to it. Sometimes I'll add a couple of cans of kidney beans to it, which is really good. So there's lots of different ways that you can modify it for the way that you like it. I need to sharpen my knife. Forgot my goggles. Oh, I hate it when I do that. I have tried and heard all the tricks in the book for making your eyes not burn when you are chopping onions, and the only surefire way I have ever found, but to be fair, I do have extremely sensitive eyes, is to wear goggles. So I'm going to go throw this in our big pot, just the onions to start, and get those fried up. This is one of those soups you could really just throw everything in the pot and just let it cook slowly all day to let the flavors meld, but I do find that I just like soups better when the onions are caramelized first. You can use olive oil to fry them in, or in this case I'm going to use butter, and a lot of butter, like 3/4 of a cup. You can use like chicken broth, vegetable broth, beef broth, whatever kind of broth that you have, which definitely gives it a little bit of a richer flavor. However, I'm using really fresh, delicious, flavorful vegetables, so I think I'm actually going to top it off with water, let it cook down. If it does need a little bit of flavoring to it, I'll probably add some better than bouillon or something like that to it, just to richen the broth a little bit. But I think with all these flavorful vegetables, it's probably going to be fine as is. So now basically all we're going to do is add our grated carrot and our grated beet once those onions are done. A whole bunch of this gorgeous cabbage. I never liked cabbage in my life up until probably 10 years ago or so. Oh, it's fly season. 10 years ago or so. And I absolutely love it. I love it in all ways. It's so delicious. So now what I think we'll do is our dill pickles. So all I'm going to do for my dill pickles, I talked about this the last time I made dill pickles when I made the refrigerator pickles, is I prefer them with just a ton of dill and garlic and the brine. I don't put anything else in. There's lots of other seasonings. You can use pickling seasoning or whatever you want in it, but I like them just straight up garlic and dill. Lots and lots of dill. So I just realized that I did not take all of the flower ends off of my pickles. Always remove your flower ends because they have an enzyme in them that can make them go a little bit soft. So I guess we got to do that before we can actually get these into jars. My goal this week is to get all of the preserving done out of my garden that I need to do, so that I can just take the weekend off and just do nothing. Just relax. That sounds delightful. So you can see here, I just nipped just the end off of that and the stem end off too, if there's a stem there. So this is kind of the ideal size I find for pickling cucumbers. I cannot believe how many of these there were in the garden this morning. I honestly was a little bit shocked. It was probably the biggest harvest we've had. I have to admit, I would have been absolutely shocked if I could have looked forward in the spring to now and saw how many, hello kitty, and saw how many pickling cucumbers we actually ended up with, because I lost a lot of my pickling cucumbers to frost in just about the middle of June this year and had to end up replanting. But you know what? I was actually thinking about this when I was out in the garden this morning. I was thinking about how I think I'm going to change, because we've had frost in kind of June 10th-ish or so for the last couple of years. I think I'm going to bump my planting times a little bit, move them ahead a couple of weeks instead of starting so early. The only thing that I think I'll have to continue to start a little bit early, but I'm going to have to give them some extra protection, is the squash. I don't think it's going to be a very good squash year. I was just out looking at the squash and there really isn't a lot of fruit on those plants. The plants look amazing, but mostly it's just foliage and not a lot of actual fruit production. So I think next year I'm actually going to cover them with row covers and keep them covered all the way through until there's not even the slightest possibility of getting frost again. I'm gonna just quickly check our onions here. Okay, our onions are good, so now we're gonna throw in beet and our carrot. I'm making a gigantic pot of this, and I'm actually going to freeze it. I did try canning borscht, but I did not like it canned at all. It just completely ruined the flavor because you need to pressure can it because of the type of ingredients that are in it. And it just was not for me. So now we're gonna add a whole bunch of our cabbage. I'll probably add a bit more, but we'll start with that. Just gonna bring this over and cover this up with water. You know what I just realized is that I left the potatoes that we picked up in the potato patch. I didn't actually grab them. So I need to go get those scrubbed, get them cut up. And once this cooks down a little bit and some of the water is released from the cabbage and I see how much liquid I'm gonna deal with, I'll put the potatoes in at that point. I might need to add a little bit of extra liquid. We'll have to wait and see. Talk about an easy soup to make though, isn't it? I have decided that I am going to do my dill pickles in half-gallon jars rather than in quart jars. You just can't fit that many in a quart jar. So we're gonna do that. I will use my quart jars that I have over there that I need to get washed up for doing the bread and butter pickles, which I'm not gonna go through. Like I said, I've already shown that a couple of times in the last few weeks. So I'll do those a little bit later. But right now, let's get these dills done. Dill, lots and lots of, oh, let's clean that jar first, shall we? Okay, garlic, and yet more garlic. Lots and lots and lots of dill. And then pickles, or cucumbers, soon to be pickled. Packing pickles into jars is probably one of my least favorite canning things, or dill pickles anyway, because I always look at the jar after and realize that I have a whole bunch of empty space in the side. And I'm gonna pack even more garlic in on the top here. So what I could do is just make refrigerator pickles with these, but I do want to have some on the pantry shelves for winter. Oh my goodness, that's really hard. So I do want to have some canned. I prefer refrigerator pickles when it comes to dill pickles, just because they are crunchier, because you don't have to cook them, fresher tasting. But like I said, I want some on the pantry shelves. So now we're going to top this off with our brine. Doesn't that look beautiful? I love the way pickles look in a jar. It's kind of hard to debubble a jar like this that's packed so densely. So you can just give it a shake like this, and that will help bring some of that trapped air up. All right, that batch is done. So now we're gonna stuff this full and go again. Okay, so I have a gallon here that I'm going to turn into refrigerator pickles and 3 half gallons there that I'm going to process in a large stock pot like that one. I'm just going to water bath can them. But now we're going to take our beets and peel them. Super easy to peel, as you can see, when they have been boiled. So we're just going to peel these and chop them up and pickle them. So you can pressure can beets, and they're actually pretty good just in water. But I like a few pickled beets. I don't use a ton of them, but I do put them on like cheese plates at Christmas time and Thanksgiving. So we're gonna do these ones in pint jars. Oh my goodness, I love beets so much. Yum. So you can cut these into whatever size you like. One of the reasons I love cylindra beets, that's what these are, is because they are so nice to cut up for canning, because they're just nice and round, not too big. The inside of golden beets is one of my joys in the summertime. Look at that gorgeousness. I have to get some more jars. Okay, so we ended up with a bunch more liquid in our soup here, so I'm going to add some more grated beet and some more of the cabbage. I am going to add a little bit of sugar to the brine for these beets. Just a touch, just enough to kind of bring, it seems weird because beets are fairly sweet, but it just brings out the sweetness, just a little bit of sugar in them. If you like cloves and beets are kind of a nice flavor combination together, then you can add a little bit of cloves to these. Not a fan of cloves myself. Where did I put my pot? So we're going to top these with our brine and then process them for 10 minutes in a water bath or steam canner. So debubbled, and now we are lidding these up because there's lots of sugar. Make sure you wash your rims for recipes like this. All right, friends, canning is now mostly complete. I still have to jar up probably about 10 more jars of the bread and butter mixed pickles over there that I just drained and rinsed, but I'm going to do that after we're done this video because I just want to show you what we ended up with so far. Okay, so we've got our beans here, which just look beautiful, our pickled beets, 4 half gallons of our dill pickles, and then 1 gallon of the refrigerator dills. Big giant pot of soup. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like when it is in a bowl. So I'll be topping this with some sour cream, a little bit of parsley, probably a little bit of dill as well. That's my favorite way to eat it. It is so delicious. I would really encourage you to try it. And it's inexpensive to make a soup like this because you can make a huge pot of soup with 1 cabbage, couple beets, couple carrots, and a couple of potatoes, and some water and a little bit of seasoning or some beef broth, vegetable broth, or chicken broth. So definitely give it a try if you have not already. Remember, it is over on my website if you want the actual recipe. I hope you enjoyed spending some time with me, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye.